Hello, everybody, and welcome to our third Thursday Science webinar series. My name's Britt Alexander, and I will be your moderator for today. So just some housekeeping rules before we get started. Please make sure your name is clearly entered so that we know who you are when you're asking questions. To ask questions during the discussion, you can use the question and answer box. So we'll have a 30-minute presentation and then an interactive discussion. And we will select which questions to ask to the panelists and the speakers. For any technical support, you can use the chat. And just to let you know as well, this webinar is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel to watch afterwards. So we're very happy today to have one of our Embracing the Ocean artists with us from last year's program. And our Embracing the Ocean program is an artist in residence program, which is an activity of the Ocean Decade. So we have with us today Sonia Levy. She will be speaking about her project, Submerged Knowledge, Filmmaking and Experiments in the Venetian Lagoon. She's an artist and research-led filmmaker. As I mentioned, she was our artist in residence from last year. She's also a member of the steering committee at the UN Ocean Decade Coordination Office on Connecting People and the Ocean. And we also have with us today Chiara Famengo, who has been working in collaboration with Sonia for the past year on the residency project, and she's an independent curator. So I will pass over to you, Sonia and Chiara.
Hi, hello everyone. I think we will start by sharing some slide.
Can you see it right?
Yeah, I can see it. Can everyone see it as well?
Yes, we can see it.
Great. So yeah, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today for our talk. And thank you for those who will be watching this recording later. So I'd like to start by thanking the European Marine Board and Britt Alexander for their support throughout the Embracing the Ocean residency. Thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. So as Britt mentioned, our talk today is titled Submerged Knowledges, Filmmaking and Experiments in the Venetian Lagoon. Submerged knowledges refer to the situated, ever-shifting, and at times concealed epistemology of the Venice Lagoon, the primary focus of our work. It also highlights knowledges that have been historically ignored, drawing inspiration from scholar Macarena Gomez-Barres' notion of submerged perspective. These perspectives offer alternative understandings that challenged authoritative narratives while emphasizing the experiences of marginalized communities. So today our talk will center on the outcomes and research processes that have arose during the EMB residency, encompassing a film and a series of workshop experiments. As I've previously discussed the film in other EMB presentation, I intend to keep this aspect of the presentation a bit more concise and allow more time to focus on the workshop. And yeah, I wanted to also mention that if you're interested in watching the film, please don't hesitate to drop me an email privately so I can send you a link. And we also discussed the possibility of an online screening later this year with the European Marine Board. So I'll start with this two quote. "The sea is history" by Derek Walcott, and "Water retains our anthropomorphic secrets" by Astrida Nemanes. So We Marry You, O Sea, engages with Venice and its lagoon from below, with the aim to bring attention to the city submerged, life-giving, and altered biogeomorphologies. I use the term biogeomorphologies to prevent the compartmentalization of geomorphological processes, that is, the origin and evolution of underwater topographic features, and hydrological processes, the distribution, movement, and circulation of water, from their impact on life, and reciprocally, to avoid disconnecting life, including human activities, from its influence on these vital processes. When attuning to the ebbs and flow of the lagoon, these dichotomies between environment and organism, between physical abiotic processes and life cycles begin to dissolve. So these insights stem from my collaboration with marine scientists at the Marine Biology Station Umberto d'Ancona in Chioggia, Venice, notably with Professor Alberto Baraus, our EMB scientific partner. They embody my approach to context-driven ways of knowing and my strive to portray this dynamic cinematically. In the lagoon, a space requiring continuous modification for human settlements, wetlands and infrastructures have long been intertwined. Venice's consolidation as a trading hub and epicenter of naval advancement during the Middle Ages transformed the amphibious landscape into a place of hard barriers and control boundaries. Major hydraulic works were developed to maintain shallow depths for defense purposes. We are waiting for the next slide. 20th century modernization effort turned part of the marshland into an industrial frontier, with the construction of petrochemical refineries and one of Italy's largest shipping terminals. This project, as well as continued water engineering undertaking, greatly contributed to the alteration of lagoon dynamics and Venice's own sinking. One might consider MOSE, the mobile defense barrier flood defense barriers completed in 2019, tainted by corruption scandals, as a legacy of such industrial military schemes and decisions from above that often fortify spaces while neglecting local ecological knowledges and multi-species worlding. Amid these tensions, my film seeks to ask, how can alternative understandings of history, agency, management, and politics emerge from thinking materially and analytically from below? From below refers to history from below, a historiographical approach that focuses on the experiences of ordinary and marginalized communities instead of those in power. The film extends this approach, broadening the view of who shapes history, including more than human worlds. The film is mostly composed of submarine audiovisual, offering a rarely underwater perspective of Venice. It also engages with rare historical photographs of the lagoon industrialization. An original score developed in collaboration with choir conductor Esmeralda Conde Ruiz and the E Ensemble combines a chorus of human voices and underwater sound recording. The composition captures the lagoon pulses and the impact of industries, from aquatic sound drowned out by boat noises, the rhythmic poundings of industrial activity amid surging tides, as it invokes the silted interplay between human realms and the watery. So I will share the link of the film in the chat for those of you who wants to get an idea. So you might wonder why I propose delving into Venice's industrial past when so many urgent concerns are for futures. So, however, I align myself with numerous thinkers who argue that in order to envision flourishing futures, it is essential to understand the intricacies of the past. Or to put it otherwise, the profound changes demanded by the current global state require a critical examination of European modernity, perhaps even spanning its longue durée, Venice serving as a fascinating lens through which to explore such questions. So my collaboration with scientists from the Marine Biology Station, Umberto d'Ancona, drove me to conduct my own underwater filming and focus on industrialization. Although the lagoon appeared well studied and understood, the impact of its industrialization associated with climate change issues, which are also linked to industrialization processes, has drastically changed its dynamics. Top-down governance structures have also intensified fragmentation, creating a contentious patchwork of institutions and obfuscating practices. This transformation have resulted in challenges to understanding a significantly altered ecosystem that sometimes exhibit perplexing behavior, suggesting a state of unpredictability and enhanced complexities that compromises the lagoon lifeways. This disjointed state of its management does not only exacerbate socio-ecological issue and impede effective conservation action, they also hinder accountability. So additionally, conservation efforts have concentrated on the lagoon's more preserved parts, leaving its industrial and urban areas needing more study. These sites often face research challenges due to rapidly changing conditions, introduced species, and the difficulty of conducting studies in such areas. Yet these areas remain connected to and influence the lagoon's most remote parts. The film Submerged perspectives are gestures for the reappropriation of life's ongoingness. We Marry OC uses the cinematic to investigate and re-engage with the lagoon's intrinsic interdependencies, seeking to make apparent how it has dangerously been altered. This alteration is emphasized by the use of negative black and white reversal of submerged perspective, reminiscent of archival industrialization photography, bridging past and present and unfolding futures within the contaminated waters of the lagoon. So lastly, the film title referenced the marriage to the sea, a Venetian ritual observed from the 11th to the 18th centuries that symbolized its supremacies in the Mediterranean Sea. In this ritual, the Doge, the state patriarch, would wed the lagoon by casting a golden ring into its water, proclaiming, "We marry you, O sea," as a sign of true and perpetual dominion. These rituals' layered meaning include good fortune and safety along trade routes, and the assertion of control over them also highlight the Western intent of dominance over the natural world, echoing the dynamic of marriage in patriarchal society, where women and nature are perceived as existing to serve and be readily available to men. So before moving on to the workshop, I just wanted to emphasize that although my presentation primarily offered a critical analysis of Venice and the lagoon, many have been and continue to be actively involved in sharing alternative histories and conveying diverse experiences. So in September 2023, We Marry OC premiered at Cinema Galleggiante in Venice, uniquely set against the backdrop of the lagoon it seeks to portray and outside the confine of traditional cinema. Following its debut, the film was included in the collective exhibition Liquid Intelligence, curated by Chus Martinez with Soledad Gutierrez and Maria Montero Sierra at the Museo Nacional Thyssen-Bornemisza in Madrid. The exhibition aimed to bring attention to the fragile state of ocean life. Subsequently, the film was screened in various university settings, art venues, and scientific gatherings. Each screening was an opportunity for discussion, fostering meaningful exchanging aimed at igniting exchanges and bridging diverse audiences across different worlds and disciplines. So while the film sheds light on the work conducted by our collaborators at the Marine Biology Station, Umberto d'Ancona, its objective extends beyond mere awareness raising. It strives to critically engage with science and to foster interdisciplinary methods. Our partnership with the station illuminated the critical importance of traditional fishers' multi-generational ecological knowledge. This knowledge is essential for comprehending the current state of the lagoon, implementing scientific restoration projects, and envisioning futures grounded in environmental justice. And as he hinted earlier in the film introduction, historical research indicated how elitist and abstract understanding of the lagoon have often guided political decisions from above and marginalized such local ecological knowledge. Therefore, we felt compelled to seek methods for listening and elevating these knowledges, creating space for them to be gathered and heard. This was realized in February 2024 at the Marine Biology Station Umberto d'Ancona where the film served as a starting point for a series of 4 workshops titled Lagoon dal Basso, Lagoon from Below. Here, instead of the usual approaches of using art at the end of a project for its dissemination, we initiated an experiment using insights prompted by the film. This allowed us to leverage the film and its finding as a foundation for experimental, creative, and collective thinking, encouraging participants to engage critically with various perspectives. I will now hand it over to Chiara.
Thank you, Sonia. Bringing together Moicanti, the lagoon's traditional crab fisher, marine scientists from the Stazione, and other local stakeholders, this workshop provided fertile ground for listening, observing, and reimagining the lagoon's waterscapes. They were crafted as collaborative learning environments, fostering the exchange of diverse knowledge and the application of artistic methods to portray the lagoon through the eyes of those intimately connected to its daily rhythms. We curated sessions with an interdisciplinary approach encompassing marine biologists and scientists, wetland ecologists, and 3 artisanal fishermen from the lagoon. We had attendance of fewer than 15 individuals, always the same people. We wished to cultivate an intimate atmosphere conducive to robust group dynamics while facilitating the exchange of collective insights through active listening. In addition to these participants, we extended invitation to local stakeholders from Chioggia, enriching the dialogue with insight rooted in community experience. We also welcome water scholars from the environmental humanities, enriching interdisciplinary discourse with critical perspectives. Just as the film challenged conventional narratives, so too did our workshops. Contrasting with the disembodied plots of geopolitical maps or the view from above prevailing lagoon governances, we felt the need to shift focus, embracing situated and partial perspective for more inclusive and nuanced understandings. We asked, how do global climate emergency manifest at a local scale? How does governance from above impact lifeways on the ground? How do this logic unfold from below? Rather than interpreting from afar, the imperative was to listen to the story of those directly affected. These are the invisible narratives that collectively shape the space of the lagoon. In this exploration, we sought approaches that capture unheard stories while embracing the lagoon's uncertain and ever-changing nature. We sought often overlooked knowledges, stumble upon concealed narratives, and explore submerged perspectives. Now that you have gained a bit more insight into the framework, I'll let Sonia delve into the concept and topic covered by the workshops.
Thank you, Chiara. So I'll start with this quote by the philosopher Vincent Desprez that I took the liberty of translating myself. So this is not an official translation. So the intent of an inquiry is not merely to describe an experience, but rather to bring it into being. From this standpoint, all inquiries are first and foremost experiments. They entail modifying what they set out to study. Thus, the focus is less on describing from a distance a reality that allegedly exists independently of the description, but rather on accompanying a problem or an experience that individuals or groups are undergoing, and thereby granting it a shared collective existence. This implies that inquiries have to do with reassessing issues, reconsidering problems, and rethinking and contemplating them, with those affected, or again, adding consistency to matters at hand and thereby transforming them into a shared collective experience. Our series of workshop experiment, Lagoon dal Basso, were titled Lagoon dal Basso, a series of workshops exploring political biogeomorphologies, and were developed with Alberto Barros' support and held at the Marine Biology Station Umberto d'Ancona, And they centered around three main topics: speciality, temporality, and valuation. So speciality was co-led with Alberto Barraus and delved into the lagoon's hydrodynamics and geomorphological transformation, examining how these alterations impact life. Our objective was to grasp the lagoon's inherent interconnectedness, exploring the relationship between biotic and abiotic processes, or in other words, understanding how life and space, hydromorphological dynamics, are intimately intertwined. In this workshop, participants contributed their observation, daily experiences, and local and scientific knowledges about changes in the lagoon bed and sedimentation processes. Participants addressed matters of concern, spatially located concern, and discussed ways of knowing across practices. Reflecting on causes and linking issues were focal points. Additionally, participants explored submerged lagoon world through artistic methods, reflecting on non-human agency and dangerous transformation, while diving below the waterline. Temporality was developed with landscape architect Amina Chouari and her expertise in the lagoon's geomorphological politics. Our objective was to challenge the normative notion of linear time to instead comprehend how pasts and futures are intertwined, saturating the lagoon's present conditions. Indeed, the Venetian lagoon is characterized by diverse temporal dimensions. Above the water surface, prominent historical narratives shape the landscape, as exemplified by Venice, a city seemingly frozen in time. Beneath the water surface, submerged realms unveil turbid, ever-changing worlds made by the gravitational pulls of tidal cycles, intertwined with hydrodynamics, reshaped by the impacts of the global political economy. Simultaneously, the lagoon serves as a space of speculation, with numerous imagined and planned future-oriented flood management projects driven from above. These initiatives often emerge as response to a perceived adversarial nature against the lagoon, viewed as encroaching on livelihood and prospects. During the temporality session, participants illustrated their engagement with the lagoon through tangible objects symbolizing methodologies of working, conserving, or knowing. They elucidated the use of this instrument and tools in exploring the lagoon's dynamic over time, thereby reflecting on evolving waterscapes. Furthermore, temporal analysis was facilitated to explore the manner in which shared tools and objects illuminated temporal experiences and the diverse temporal dimension inherent within lagoon worlds. Valuation explored the historical dynamics between water ecology and economy, particularly through the lens of fishing legislation and conservation practices, considering their longue durée evolution up to the current neoliberal politics in the spaces of the lagoon. Acknowledging that the seas and the Venetian lagoon are pivotal sites in the development of modernity in capitalist economies, we recognize how such processes are now materially constitutive of this environment, expressed through their worn, stressed, fragmented, and depleted states. In the valuation workshop, participants critically reflect on the cultural and economic values associated with the lagoon. Developed with the advisory support of human geographer Louise Carver, we looked at the ongoing process of economically valuing ecosystem function, such as ecosystem services. We explore which other kinds of values also count, for example, the exchanges between human and non-human that shape the lagoon metabolism, broadening the notion of labor to include more than human worlds, and thereby facilitating investigation into the entities, processes, and projects that positively impact its well-being. Furthermore, participants examined ongoing conservation projects at combating erosion through the presentation of Alberto Barraus' Live Vimine project. Thanks to a presentation also by historian of science Pietro Daniel Amodeo, we also drew insight from historical management and conservation practices that previously integrated fisher local ecological knowledges.
In In our initial meeting, we devised an experiment centered around the shell of Manila clam to initiate our discussion. Introduced in 1980s for the development of large-scale shellfish cultivation, Manila clams transformed the lagoon into a primary European production area. This industrial-scale cultivation influenced the socio-ecological dynamics of the lagoon. Local stories abound about conflicts arising from clam warfare, underscoring the consequences of clam fishing on economies by dispute and, at times, allegation of organized crime robbing this once valuable resource. A shell was circulated among participants, with each person sharing a story associated with their experiences and reflection on what this object might evoke. One of the fishers explained how the effects of clam farms have caused extensive harm to the lagoon, reaching deep into their fishing grounds, highlighting how farming for clams eradicates seagrass habitats crucial for the breeding of fish. Or again, how these clam farms have been encroaching upon areas traditionally and tactically recognized as protected. In certain instances, authorities have officially granted permission without adequate local consultation, while in others, there are cases of illegal occupation in these designated zones. Listening to this story, we were reminded how lagoon stories are multifaceted, often shrouded in mist and submerged into the waters, and frequently entangled in controversies. Acknowledging these intricacies became crucial to our bottom-up exploration. Laguna del Basso provided a space to explore collaboration between artists and scientists, foster connection among local communities, and elevate local ecological knowledge. It also facilitated discussion and reflection on enhanced lagoon management. Our journey was enriching yet often soulful, delving into dying ecologies and tradition and present-day struggle we were frequently confronted with uncertainty and often what seemed to be the absence of futures. We pondered the significance of collecting narrative of loss. During our last boat excursion with another moicante or traditional crab fisher, he expressed his motivation to share his local ecological knowledge, not for personal gain, but to create pathway for future generations. This stance reflects our project aspiration to acknowledge that changes might not be seen in our lifetime. Nonetheless, we wish for our effort to contribute to possibilities otherwise, advocating for intergenerational justice in our small ways. While establishing connection with local fisher and researchers, as well as with research institutions and art policy organizations farther afield, our goal was and is to enrich understandings and develop more comprehensive description of endangered and intricate lagoon worlds. In adopting this collective approach, our commitment lay in gathering and cultivating knowledge from below, with a wish to explore their practical implementation in decision-making processes. Indeed, building upon our developing collaboration with NICE, the Center for Environmental Humanities at Ca' Foscari University in Venice, as guest researcher, we are exploring potential connection with both local and international policymakers, sharing our research findings and methodologies with Venice's environmental humanities communities. This collaboration will also evolve into a series of events in the fall. The culmination of our Embracing the Ocean residency brought together We Marry UOC, Laguna del Basso workshop, and further research development, as well as establishing lasting collaboration that will continue beyond the project completion. After a year of dedicated work in the lagoon and extensive discussion with marine ecologists such as Alberto Baraus, we launched How Like a Reef, an evolving collective committed to fostering vitality and collaboration. Our website, howlikeareef.net, that I warmly invite you to visit, function as a repository for the unfolding of our projects, the film, the workshop, commission, and public programs, and the establishment of new collective working methods. Furthermore, How Like a Reef seeks to inspire joint action by forging alliances with other initiatives and instigating collaborative ventures. Our methods embody distributed agencies, emphasizing the importance of shared and passed on approaches. Presently, we are collaborating with two complementary initiatives focused on cuttlefish survival and erosion mitigation with the Venice Lagoon. This initiative involves fisher knowledge and provide them with economic opportunities. As How Like a Reef continue to evolve, we aim to broaden our collaboration to include other locales. And we would like to stop here and saying thank you to all for listening, and please, for inquiries, collaboration, research, or exhibition, you have our contacts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonia and Chiara. It's really great to see the progress that you've made over the past year with your ambitious project, and you've definitely met all of the objectives that you set out in the beginning. So I'm curious a bit more about your video. So you shared the link in the chat. So will the video remain there on Vimeo for people to watch?
I think what I share is the trailer.
That's the trailer. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. What I said is that people can email me to get a private link if they want to watch it. But yeah, we should organize an online screening.
Yeah,
soon.
definitely. And are there other screenings planned as well for the future, or I mean, other uses of the films in other workshops, for example, moving forward, looking to the future?
Yeah, so I'm actually screening it this afternoon, and I'm currently in the Netherlands, in Delft, where it's going to be part of a series of events titled Critical Environment at TU Delft. And it's going to be part also of a screening at Goldsmiths University. And then, as Chiara mentioned, there is this series of events in the fall that we are planning to work on, and I'm sure here the film will also be part of the discussion, very much so. Oh yeah, there is other screening coming up this summer in Italy, in Trieste as well.
Oh, great. Yeah. And just a reminder to the audience that you can ask your questions to Chiara and Sonia in the Q&A box. Yeah, so let us know your burning questions. But I have a few questions as well from myself. So I'm quite interested in the impact of the project, and I'll be preparing the impact report over the summer for your project. So I know you've already sent me some really interesting information on that, but sort of if you reflect on the main objective of the Embracing the Ocean program to inspire behavioral change towards sustainability and increasing awareness of issues facing the ocean, sort of, can you highlight some of the key impacts that you think you've achieved, both to the public and also potentially any policy impacts that either you've directly seen or hope to influence in future decisions?
Yeah, I think as our presentation was trying to demonstrate, bringing that visibility to the underwater world of Venice, that has been for so long just seen as this kind of surface, right? And its liveliness being quite invisible, and its complexity and how it's been transformed, that is something that I think has been the major kind of, or like when we talk about the film, because of course the workshop are doing something else, which is prolonging that, but not directly that. I would say that has been the most important part of this impact. And in terms of and bringing that to the public, right? In various public, in Venice, but also elsewhere, and people were always very kind of surprised also at what they were seeing and how damaged it was, and the way the film also really tries to go against the usual very romantic image of Venice, I guess, and show this kind of underbelly, this underside of it. So yeah. And then when I worked with the choir, that's something that I could really see for a prolonged period of time, because we worked together watching the film as a group and trying to elaborate ways to voices the film and the different underwater world. So, and I could see how people were very surprised at what they were seeing, and they were not used to see this kind of image of an underwater world, where usually we are more confronted to, I guess, the beautiful, the very colorful, coral reef type of images. And I think this film is trying to show something else, to show the turbidity, the complexity, the damage, but also there is still beauty there, right? But there's also so much complexity, introduced species, pollution. So yeah, that was one part of the answer. And in terms of the policy impact, like perhaps that links more toward the second part of the project, where also working directly with people, with local people and with fishers, and having this very grounded approach and this bottom up approach. We're really trying to see how we can come together collectively from those different disciplines Chiara was mentioning. So we have both the natural science, but also the environmental humanities, people who and we want to see how those different, and of course artistic, can then come and influence the policy, and really include the voices of the people that are concerned by those changes firsthand, right? So what are the fisher experiencing in their daily lives, the kind of changes that is remote from people that live more in Venice and not in the lagoon every day. And even the scientists, they don't go out as much as the fisher. They don't have the same kind of knowledge. And the lagoon is changing. It's a very heterogeneous environment, very unstable, and it changed very rapidly. So from one year to the other. So yeah, they're really at the forefront of those changes. So it's very, very important to have their knowledge brought there. And also they have this very intergenerational knowledge of how to take care and restore certain parts of the lagoon. And it's important to take that into consideration. They may seem, so for example, this cuttlefish survival restoration project that Chiara was mentioning, it's one that is held by the local ecological knowledge of fisher, where we would bring more habitat for the cuttlefish to lay their eggs by using laurel tree branches that are sink at the bottom of the lagoon. So they are, quite simple, in some ways quite simple approaches, but they held this multi-generational knowledge, and they may seem small, but I think we have to start from those smaller scale to see what else can be implemented.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, in the workshops, was the film and this artistic approach quite novel for most of the participants there, as sort of a method for communicating between the stakeholders? Or had they, already had experience with that?
Yeah, I'll say a little bit. Maybe Chiara, you want to say something about that as well. So no, that was completely new for all of them. And I think it was great. I think it was great, and I think it was also challenging for them and for us, because it's also languages that we don't always share the same way, and that also kind of then made us ask different questions or other questions. Like, for example, we were, or I guess maybe I was surprised also at perhaps some, how can I say, some recalcitrance from the fisher of really submerging themselves in the lagoon. I had perhaps a very kind of naive approach of thinking that they would have had that experiences, but actually, especially the older generation, being in the water was perhaps something more fearful. So it was also interesting to be challenged by that, and learning together from that. That one thing can mean a particular thing in a certain discipline or world, but it's also transformed in another context. Yeah. Do you want to add something, Chiara?
Yes, I agree with you. I think the workshop format gave us time to really unfold those conversations, and not just it was just one-off screening. It was multiple meetings and gatherings to really think with the ideas developed in the films. And I would say also, in parallel to those workshops, there was also some more one-to-one conversation that we had with fishers and marine biologists. And those conversations help us to really, discuss further what this film could look like, and what this film could do in the future. For instance, we went on a boat trip with one of the fisher, and we filmed underwater with him. And that was like a very important moment, at least for me, in that residency, because I think you could see in his eye, like, oh, like an excitement, a different understanding of what we were trying to do. So, like, I guess to respond to your question, like spending time with those ideas was really important, and gave us new food for thoughts.
Yeah, very interesting. So we have a question in the chat from David White. I think it's also linked to what we were just discussing. So he says, what was the timeline between workshops and engaging with other people where you just developed your own thinking and production before going back to others to collect more information again? How did these interactions go? Were they interesting? Were they challenging? So maybe you have some additional thoughts to add with regards to that.
Could you put the question in the chat?
Yeah. And he also, I think the participants are not able to see chat actually, but I will put it in the chat for you so you can read the question as well. But for David, the links that Sonia shared, they're also on our website. If you go to the Embracing the Ocean page and then Sonia's page, all of the information about her project is on there. So I think you're asking what, a bit more about what was this process of engaging with the various stakeholders and developing the content for the film like, and were there specific challenges or aspects that you found interesting?
Yeah, thank you for that question, David. So the film was made and finished in September, and the workshop were initiated in February, and we spent a full month to develop the full workshop. But we had worked previously, and I had work also to finish the film and to develop the film before that. So I had collaborated with the marine biologist. So I had a shared understanding with them. And so I think in terms of like what you're asking, we had a very concentrated time in terms of the workshop and the discussion that happened with the stakeholder, the fisher, and but this project, I think, is definitely not over for us, and so we are now looking to come back, and we have this time between now and the fall to also develop another aspect of it, which is how do we connect what happened at that scale in Chioggia with the local fisher, with the marine biology station. So Chioggia is in the Venice Lagoon, but it's in the south. It's not in Venice, the city. So we want to bring that discussion now in Venice in also a very different world, which is the kind of environmental humanities. And there we are hoping that also we're going to see how we can translate some of that to also bring it to discussion with that public, but also then we are hoping to bring also policy maker or decision maker. Do you want to add something, Chiara, about?
I guess, like, in terms of engagement, what was really important, because it was a very short amount of time, it was really important to work with existing relations. So the marine station, Umberto d'Ancona, had already relations and connection with fishers of the small town, fisher town, Chioggia. So it was like about not starting from scratch, but
true.
like really fostering what was already there. And that was really helpful for us to save time, but also like to, being honest on the fact that those commissions can be temporary, and you need to work with that, of course, and understanding the different rhythms of a project. That was really intense in February, and now we are slowing down, knowing very well now that will be more intense in the fall.
Yeah, thanks so much for those perspectives on the work. Yeah, and indeed, I think with this kind of work, it's always useful to, when you don't start from scratch and you already have an existing strong network, you can get a lot further. I've got a question here from my colleague Paula Kellett. And she's asking, how have people reacted to the more challenging perspectives that were brought forward in the film and the project? Was there general acceptance or denial, or a mixture? And were these different in different stakeholder groups?
That's a great question. I think we should actually, it would be an interesting research study in itself, right?
Yeah.
To look at how different groups engage with the film. And we thought about that. It would be very nice. So from the little experience, because in a way it hasn't been enough yet screening to really draw proper conclusion, but yeah, I think there are differences in how the film is accepted. I would say that for the marine biologists we work with, I feel like this film really speaks to them in a way where they understand exactly what it is about, because it's their work. That's how I feel. But with some of the fishery, it's been more challenging, I guess, in a really interesting way as well. That even though they are very conscious of what is happening, it was not a denial, but I would say that there was a lot of question, and I really respect that. And it's been also, again, very interesting to be challenged by that. And again, that's what I'm talking about, the older generation, of not wanting to look at perhaps something that is a bit more difficult to look at.
Yeah, interesting. yeah, maybe that's something to look into for the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a couple more questions from myself as well. So I'm interested to hear more about your How Like a Reef initiative, which is sort of the longevity of your project, and from what I understand, it's cultivating and strengthening the relationships and collaborations that you've made during this residency period. So, can you tell us a bit more about your plans for that for the future, and maybe how this initiative could help people that are interested in art science collaborations, or how people can get involved?
I think so as Chiara was mentioning, we are currently establishing this partnership with two initiatives in the lagoon about erosion and cuttlefish survival, which can also, interestingly, those two projects can work together. So I think one of the idea that we have is like, how can we leverage this collective for those projects to be advanced with the various funding that could be available from the art science side of things. Yeah. And sorry, go on.
It's a lot about like fostering a network of solidarity in where working in a field like where lots of things are always happening, and recognizes that lots of beautiful projects are happening, but they are not very well connected somehow sometimes. And so like really understanding that and feeling the needs of like creating a network and like really inspire joint action and forging alliances. It was one of the starting point of How Like a Reef. So like, yeah, really kind of connecting the dots between different projects and incredible people and project happening in Venice and beyond.
Yeah,
it's great to
it's
see that.
really how we can just carry on the work we have been doing by bridging those different discipline and those different institution, and really to anchor them also practically in the field, and yeah, with initiatives that are already doing things but perhaps need that extra also help and support, and just getting behind that really.
Yeah. So I think that the audience is not able to see the chat, but you'll be able to find the link to the How Like a Reef initiative. We'll add it to Sonia's page on the EMB website, in the Embracing the Ocean section for those who are interested. So I'm also curious to hear more about the perspective of your scientific collaborators, and specifically Alberto, who was your primary collaborator. And did you have some feedback from him? Because that's also one of the main objectives of the program, is to really have the art also going back to the science, where it's like this is a really good example of the art in the film used as a method for collaboration, but working with artists can also help scientists to broaden or change their perspective maybe on some of the issues that they're working on. So what was your experience of working with him, and did you have any specific feedback from him as well about his engagement in the project?
I think we should invite him one of the seminar to
Yeah, I was
discuss
hoping to
that.
see him here.
Yeah, that would be a very good discussion.
Yeah.
He is a very busy man, so it's not always we didn't have sat down properly to get all of his insight from the collaboration. And I think it would be really, really wonderful for us to hear that. But I feel like Alberto's work has really sat at the junction between science and politics, let's say, with the work he's doing, and science and policy. And I feel like with our work, we were art, science, and politics. So it's like we sort of like really came together really, really naturally, and thinking about how we can, yeah, broaden our reach, really. I think one thing that Alberto has often mentioned is, for him, art is also about cultural changes. I think that it seems to be something very important as well, in his work and what he's been confronted to. But I feel like we really share the same passion.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, it'd be interesting to maybe we can get some quotes from him as well about his
Yeah.
experience in the program. That'd be great. Yeah. Okay, so one final question from me is yeah, do you have any tips for people that are, yeah, either for scientists who are hoping to or interested to work with artists and move more into that space, or for artists that are looking to work with scientists? Do you have any tips for how, you know, this kind of collaboration can be successful based on your experience?
It's difficult to generalize because, of course, artistic practice can be so different and so varied, right? I would say be prepared to be challenged, or even be something you need to seek, even, I would say, probably. And what else? I think it's important to have a shared aim or goal as well. That helps, I think, in terms of, yeah, for the workshop, for example, for us to share that that ways of wanting to elevating local, and that curiosity toward local ecological knowledge, or that really help forging a successful collaboration. I think it also takes time to understand each other. Yeah, but again, it's hard to generalize because I have been collaborating with marine biologists for a while, and I feel like maybe I have a prior understanding of certain things. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I think those are some really useful tips though to start
Yeah.
out with. Yeah. And any from you, Chiara?
My first answer was time, like giving yourself time to really foster those connections. And I guess also like making sure to create those space for listening and deeply listening to each other's perspective and ideas and aims. That's really valuable. Like sometimes you get lost in like in project like delivery of the project, but like let's create that space where each other can be understood is really important.
Yeah, those are also very, very useful tips for sure. Okay, so thank you both for joining us today. It was really interesting to hear more about your project and to chat about the outcomes, and yeah, to see your project. You know, at the end of the 1 year, it's been great to follow it over the last year. And a pleasure to have you as our artist in residence for this year, and also great to see the work will continue on after the 1 year period. So yeah, we're happy to keep sharing the news about your work, and yeah, hopefully we will organize an online screening sometime in the summer so that everybody's able to see the film. I haven't seen it yet either, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. So I will end with announcing what we have planned for next month. So next month we don't have a third Thursday science webinar per se, but we will be launching our next future science brief on marine habitat mapping. So this will be on Monday, 17th of June. It will be a hybrid event, so it'll be hosted in Brussels at the DG Environment building. But there is also the possibility to join online. So it'll be a presentation from the chairs of the working group about the documents, and also followed by a 1-hour discussion. So the link to register is here on the slides, and you can find it on our website as well. So we hope to see you there. So thanks again, Sonia and Chiara, and thank you to everybody
Thank you.
who joined us online today.